Welcome to Aligned and Abundant, the podcast where authenticity meets practicality, compassion, alignment, and abundance. I'm your host, Christine Marcario, and I help you slow down, become more mindful, improve your mental and emotional health, and live life on your highest timeline. Together, we'll talk strategy, life lessons, and share inspiring stories of people who have overcome obstacles, grown through their pain, and risen above adversity. If you are looking for divine inspiration rooted in love and light, paired with practical tools and encouragement, you're in the right place at the right time. From one heart to another, you are an amazing and divine soul with a purpose. Have you ever heard the expression quantum leap and have been curious about what it is? On today's episode, we are going to talk about time, energy, and becoming the best version of yourself. Hey, beautiful souls, welcome back to the Aligned and Abundant podcast. I'm your host, Christine Marcario, your soul alignment guide, life coach, and sacred permission slip to create a life that feels like truth, freedom, and deep-rooted joy. Today's episode is one I've been wanting to record for a while because it's a concept that gets thrown around a lot in the coaching world, the manifestation space, and the quantum realm of spirituality. And that is quantum leaps. What is a quantum leap really? Can you create one, or do they just happen? And how does this all tie into time, energy, and who you're becoming? Let's drop in. Let's start where the term actually comes from. Quantum physics, which I'm super interested in because I have always been attracted to Einstein and his teachings of time. I've watched documentaries on Netflix that explains time and the concept of time and what it all means. So let's tie it together. In science, a quantum leap happens when an electron jumps from one energy level to another inside an atom. There's no in-between step. It doesn't move through space gradually. One moment it's in one state, and the next, boom, it's in another instantly. That leap, it defies logic. It's sudden, it's massive on a subatomic level, and it's energetically significant. This concept has been adopted into the self-development and spiritual world because that's often what it feels like in life too. Those moments where things change rapidly, beyond logic, beyond the timeline we thought we had to follow. And this is where I want to bring in Einstein again. I have always been interested in Einstein because I feel like he was such a genius beyond his time. And even though so many years have passed, we are still learning about the way that he saw the world. And it's just so fascinating. Einstein once said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion," which makes me really question, what exactly are we doing here on Earth and what are we truly experiencing? He showed us through his theory of relativity that time isn't fixed. Time is relative. It stretches, it bends, it folds depending on the observer's frame of reference. I was just literally having a conversation with someone the other day saying that I really feel like time has sped up lately for me personally. And I guess that could be true. So let's get back to Einstein. That's not just physics, it's real life. We experience time differently when we're in alignment versus when we're stuck in resistance. When you're in resistance, time can feel like it's dragging on. Do you ever just really want to go home from your day job and you look at the clock and it's like 10 minutes later? You feel like an hour's passed and it's 18 minutes later, and you're like, my goodness, will this day ever freaking end? And then when you go on vacation or it's the weekend and you're having a blast, you blink and it's 3 hours later. So I totally get that. I'm going to repeat that. We experience time differently when we're in alignment versus when we're stuck in resistance. And so when we talk about quantum leaps in a personal or spiritual sense, we're actually talking about a non-linear shift in identity, energy, and consciousness that collapses timelines. And I know these are some huge concepts that we're talking about, but I do truly feel like it is fascinating. And it definitely falls into a deep alignment with the teachings that I'm trying to teach you all. Thank you for listening. And I am just trying to get it across that you can make a quantum leap in your life. So you stop following the old linear path of this takes 5 years, and instead you tap into the version of you that already is, already lives, breathes, earns, loves, and shows up as the future you. That's where quantum manifestation happens, not from force, but from energetic congruence. Here's the truth. You don't force a quantum leap. You become an energetic match for one. And side note, it goes along with becoming the best version of yourself. They really do go hand in hand because you are trying to become the best version of yourself. And the best version of yourself has a very high frequency. So, in order to call that in, you have to raise your frequency so that the two frequencies align and they match. And then you become the newer version of yourself. So a leap is often the result of shedding old beliefs, shedding old survival patterns, regulating your nervous system to hold more expansion, to create the space in your vessel, stepping into radical self-trust, making decisions from your soul rather than fear, aligning with your divine timing, not ego timing. I've personally experienced this in my own life where I made one inner shift, one decision to stop waiting, one bold yes. And suddenly things aligned so quickly, it almost felt like a glitch in the matrix. I'm totally being serious right here. And I've done a little bit of research. And from my understanding, you will notice little differences in the small details. And that will be a signal to you that you have made a quantum leap. I'll share a little bit of my quantum leap. I had been learning about quantum leaps and I wanted to make one. So I began raising my energy, raising my vibration by listening to songs that I found on YouTube that were specifically designed to have a quantum leap, or I listened to my inner intuition and I sensed what area I specifically needed to heal. I know for me, at one point, I was working on my throat chakra. So I was trying to release any blockages that were in my throat chakra so that I could use my voice in a different way than I normally have in the past, such as creating this podcast. And also wanting to be able to speak my truth without people pleasing, right? So letting go of the limiting belief that I have to be a people pleaser in order to make people quote unquote happy. I was practicing regulating my nervous system by implementing more meditation and quiet time where I could connect to source, connect to God. But like I said, the most important thing that I can tell you that I was doing was I was listening to YouTube music in my ears before I was going to bed and as I drifted off into sleep. And I'd say I probably listened for about an hour and a half to 3 hours on most nights. And really, I was just tuning into the sound of a certain hertz level, a specific frequency that was related to quantum leaping. I also came across some subliminal messages, but I was a little bit more cautious with those ones because truly, if you can't hear what they are saying, then you just really never know what the messages are that may be hidden in there. So just be careful when you're choosing what it is that you are listening to, especially as you're going to sleep. However, I do believe that our soul knows best. And if we're listening to something that may not necessarily be good for us, I do believe that our subconscious will reject it. So, my best advice for you is to really just listen to what feels best. I would often scroll through the results that would come from my search, and I would just go with the one that I felt the most drawn to. And then I would test it out. I wouldn't necessarily force myself to listen to it. I would just make sure that I liked it. And there are certain ones that I liked better than others, so I would just stick with them. So, like I said, I was specifically listening to these before I went to bed for probably 2 weeks. It might have been about 2 weeks. And so my husband and I actually were blessed to go away for the weekend. I want to say this was probably November. And we were spending the weekend at a hotel in the Poconos area, and we were just chilling and relaxing. We went out to dinner. I was watching a Facebook Live of one of my friends, and it was just a very like relaxing evening. And that night, like I kept just wanting, I'm calling in the best and highest version of myself right now. I'm calling in a higher level of me, and I would imagine myself having all of the things that I wanted, but not necessarily having the things that I wanted. It more or less was driven by the feeling that I would have if I had those things. So we're not necessarily looking for the things, we're looking for the feeling that we think is associated with those things. So you may not necessarily need a fancy car, but you like the feeling that driving that fancy car has or brings to you. So the peace of mind, the maybe sense of accomplishment or success, you're looking for the emotion. Really, the things that we're creating in our life are coming from the emotions that we have in our current and present state. We are creating our future with our present current state of emotion. So I just went to bed believing. I knew it was going to happen. I 100% believed it was going to happen. And I'm also remembering that I was totally drawing in more information about this because I actually went to a holistic expo around this time. And it had to have been before we went away for the weekend because I had actually met a man there and I bought one of his books that was literally on quantum leap. So again, the universe brings to you what you are seeking. It's an energetic match. What you are seeking, the universe is also seeking for you. So you just need to, again, align your energies. And how you align your energy is just being open and honest with the direction in which you want to go, the direction that brings you the most joy, the most happiness, the most peace, and forgetting the rest, putting up your boundaries, saying no when you mean no, and yes when you mean yes, etc. Finding out what your human design is so that you know what works for you. I would highly recommend finding your human design, and that's an easy Google search. I can also drop a recommended link in the show notes for easy access for you. So, how did I know that I had a quantum leap? It's not something that I can give you evidence. What I can show you and tell you is something that I 100% believe. And my husband was also with me. So, I went to bed happy, you know what I mean? Like it was nice and relaxing. We had good food and we were just chilling. We were both just relaxing. And so we were both in good moods. And I woke up and I just felt like I had the most beautiful, relaxing sleep, but I had this sense of knowing. So that's what I mean when I'm saying it's not something that I can easily express, except I just had this deep knowing, like it was fact in my mind that I had a quantum leap, that I leveled up overnight, that I had shed some old beliefs, I had shed some things that were holding me back, and I knew that I stepped into a higher version of myself. So I stepped onto a higher timeline. And the thing that stood out the most, that was the little change in my reality, was I had this pair of pajama pants that I have had for a while now. And so I wear a different pair of pajama pants every night. I don't know if everybody does, but my husband asked me the other day, he's like, "Do you literally wear different pajamas every night?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, that explains why half your laundry is pajamas." And I was like, "Well, yeah." So I don't know, whatever, right? The bottom line is, I've had this pair of pants. I wear them all the time, especially when I was teaching. Some days I was so burnt out and tired, I would just come home and I'd be in pajamas by like 5 o'clock. So I knew specifically that this pair of pants was blue and they have these like little white diamonds on them. Now, I also know that the morning that I woke up after having my quantum leap, there was now a blue line of what looks like satin ribbon going down the outside of each leg. That was never there before. I was so mind blown. I turned to my husband and I didn't say anything to him at first. And I said, "Hey, does this pair of pants have like a stripe going down the side?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Get rid of those raggedy old things. I've seen them for way too long." He's like, "No, there's no stripe going down those sides." And I said, "Do you see this?" And he was like so blown away. And then I explained to him, and he's like, "That is crazy." He's like, "That stripe was not there." And it was such confirmation for me because my husband is not necessarily like a believer of every single thing that I come up with and say and do, but he's been getting on board a lot more than he would have in the past. So he was totally a believer and he really truly agreed that I had a quantum leap because of the physical evidence that we had in hand. And not only that, it kind of, and I don't know if this is true or not, this is just my own observation. This is my own life experience. But, I dug deeper into the Mandela effect. And there are certain movies and certain people and certain remembrances that people will disagree on. And this kind of clicked in my brain of it might be because some people are jumping to higher timelines and that's why they are having a perception of something being one way and people that are on a lower timeline have a remembrance of something being a different way. Now, they are the same things, the same concepts like the Berenstain Bears. Some people remember it being spelled with an AIN at the end, and some people remember it being spelled EIN. And you can go down a whole rabbit hole exploring the Mandela effect. I have done it myself and you can get lost in it. And so I kind of really put these two things together and I was like, that makes so much sense. And it was just really, really interesting to me. But more importantly, it gave me such hope and confirmation that God, Source, is really listening to our hearts and our desires. I was praying and just believing in myself, in the beauty of the universe. And again, sometimes you just want more for your light. You want more for yourself, and you want to live in your best and highest timeline and version of yourself and who you are. So I became available for a new reality. Energetically, emotionally, and spiritually, I did the work, I put in the time, and I was rewarded with that higher timeline. And so that was one of the experiences that I had. I have had some other ones, but they weren't necessarily as memorable as that specific time. But again, I didn't really necessarily have the physical evidence, which again, the physical evidence isn't really true evidence to any stranger, any person besides myself, because I knew what those pants looked like beforehand. So it's not really evidence, but it's evidence to me to prove that what I was saying was true to like myself. The other quantum leaps that I've had have been more or less just, again, a feeling. You just wake up knowing, just as the same as you would feel the presence of God. So, for example, I've had a few experiences where I just knew God was holding me in his love, his light, and his energy. And one of those times was when I was having just a really sad time in my life where I just felt like misunderstood and lost and confused. And I was just crying my little heart out. And God literally just wrapped his arms around me and just comforted me. And again, it's just a feeling like I can't explain it, but it's just such a beautiful feeling. It's almost like being encompassed with just pure love. And it's just a feeling that is so indescribable. And I truly believe that that is most likely what heaven feels like for me. And I do hope that that is the case and that is the truth. But again, if you've ever experienced the beauty and love of God wrapping his arms around you or an archangel wrapping their wings around you, it is just the most beautiful, comforting, and peaceful feeling. And just reminding you that you are part of something that is so much bigger. So I encourage you to believe and trust and have faith that you are here for a reason. You have a purpose. It is our job in this life to discover what our soul's purpose is and then to act on it. When you are holding back the gifts that you have been endowed with, you are holding back from sharing with the others who are ready and willing and open to receive those gifts. So you really aren't just doing an injustice to yourself. You are doing an injustice to all of the people whose lives you are supposed to touch. It is so important for us to discover what our soul's purpose is and to act on it because it will truly bring you the joy, the happiness, and the compassion that you need for yourself. But it's going to make a huge difference in the world, even if you just affect one person. And I do believe that when we are doing our soul's purpose and our life's mission, we really do affect so many more people than just one. So be brave, be bolden. If you want to discover more about what your soul's purpose is, I am offering one-on-one Ikigai life coaching sessions. And what that basically means is together we sit down and we break apart the things that make you you, and we come up with some ideas as to how you can lead your most aligned life living with your purpose. So details will be in the show notes, and you can also find a link in my link tree on any of my social media bios. But let's get back to business. Myths. Let's talk about some myths about quantum leaps and let's bust some. Do you remember that show, Mythbusters? Oh my gosh, flashback. All right, so let's clear up some common misconceptions. A quantum leap does not mean skipping the work. Actually, it's totally the opposite. It means that the work becomes more aligned, more effective, and less forced. What is the work? I used to always hear people say, I'm doing the work, I'm doing the work. And I was like, well, what the heck does that mean? Like, I feel like I'm doing the work. It's going back to what I said in the beginning. You're shedding the limiting beliefs. You are letting go of things that you quote unquote can't do because you can do it all. And you are raising your energy. You are saying no to things that you want to say no to. You are basically coming more in tune with who you are as a person. And by doing so, you are raising your frequency and your vibration. You're letting go of things that may have held you back. You are forgiving people, especially yourself, who you feel that you need to forgive, etc. So again, let's repeat that one. The myth is that a quantum leap does not mean skipping the work. In fact, it means the work becomes more aligned, more effective, and less forced. Myth number 2, it does not mean that everything will feel easy all the time. We did not come here to feel like life is perfect and easy all of the time. We have to know the hardships in order to experience and appreciate, that's the gratitude, appreciate the good. We cannot feel hot if we don't know what cold is. It often involves shedding layers of identity, relationships, and comfort zones. Okay, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Growth does not come from sitting in your comfort zone. Third myth that I want to address is it's not always external first. Oftentimes, the work comes from within. Your energy, your beliefs, your self-concept. So, so important. So remember, even in physics, the leap is energetic before it's visible. I'm going to repeat that. The leap is energetic before it's visible. The 3D world has to catch up. So it's like you put your order in to the diner of the universe and it eventually gets to the table. Let's move on to how to prepare for a quantum leap, both energetically and practically. Everybody loves practicality. If you are feeling that tug, that readiness for a leap, for expansion, for a new chapter in your life, here are some ways that I've come up with to co-create it. One, this was really hard for me. Get crystal clear on your next level self. This took me forever. I kept wanting to be clear. I kept wanting clarity. And I just felt like there was a big fog over what exactly I wanted. So you have to get crystal clear on your next level self. This is where your imagination comes back into play. Remember when you were a kid and you can imagine any and everything? You would leave your classroom and be off in a castle fighting dragons. You have to bring that inner child and imagination back. Think about, how does she think, move, speak, show up? Start embodying that version now. What does embodying mean? It means acting as if you are already that version of yourself. Buy yourself the dang $6 coffee. Enjoy it, savor it, because the highest version of you who loves her $6 lattes gets them every day, gets them whenever the heck she feels like it. Do it. Second piece of advice, let go of outdated timelines. Get rid of our thoughts around something needing to take a certain amount of time. Who says it needs to take 5 years? Who says you need to be 35 in order to have XYZ? What if time bent in your favor? It can happen. Number 3, do the nervous system work. Expansion can feel unsafe if your body is still wired for lack or fear. Safety creates sustainability. If you are trying to create more abundance in your life, but you are not ready to hold $1 million, you can say, I am learning how to be a millionaire, instead of saying, I am a millionaire. Because if your subconscious doesn't believe it, neither will your energy. The fourth way in which you can co-create a quantum leap. Take aligned, bold action. Leaps often come after you go first. The universe mirrors your conviction. Energy first, and then the creation will show up. It's a mirror. So whatever energy you are putting out, you will get back in physicality in time. Last piece of advice is to trust the quantum field. This is the energetic space where all possibilities exist. You don't control it, you partner with it. Now think about this. For every decision that you make, let's just go and keep it simple with a yes or a no. Should I buy this pair of shoes? Yes, no. And then from each of those answers comes another choice. Do I wear them to the Sweet 16 where I meet the love of my life? Yes, no. Think of it as a vein. It just branches off and branches off and branches off until there are a gazillion different timelines. Each has a different ending, a different outcome, a different path. So there are some that believe that we are literally one soul living an infinite number of lives based off of each of the choices that we make or the choices that we don't make. So, thinking about this concept, when we are having a quantum leap, we are making those gigantic energetic shifts into the best timeline, the version where you are showing up as someone who has a job that makes them happy every day, has the best relationships, has all of her or his dreams come true, has situations where they are rewarded with great relationships and positivity. You are leading a happy life where you feel joyous and fulfilled because you are working on creating the best life that you could possibly have. And again, it is a very deep concept to follow, but I feel like once you can see it as a possibility, there really is no undoing that understanding and going back. In fact, you can only propel further. I remember when I decided to no longer play small in my business. I stopped asking, is this good enough? And started asking, is this aligned? I rewrote how I showed up online. I stopped over explaining. I owned my voice. And within weeks and not months, opportunities landed that reflected that version of me. That was a quantum leap, not because of the strategy, but because of the shift in identity and energy. I was offered the opportunity to work with specific people that gave me the chance to showcase my voice and to make connections that I might not necessarily have made, or rather, I can say I probably definitely would not have made if I didn't shift into a higher energetically aligned version of myself and of my identity, who I was and who I was no longer going to allow myself to be. Gain that clarity on who you want to be and what you want your life to look like. I would focus on the feelings that you want to feel and not necessarily try to control the outcome. The outcome is not our job. That is God's plan for us. And God may have a bigger plan for you than you can even imagine right now, because the version of you who you currently are might not be able to see that landscape right now. It might be covered in clouds. So it's step by step and sometimes leap by leap to get where God wants you to end up. And sometimes it's not easy. A lot of times it's not easy. You have to shed the old in order to make space for the new. My advice, if you're craving a quantum leap right now, ask yourself, what version of me do I need to embody today to collapse the timeline between where I am and where I'm meant to be? Let that version lead. What would he or she do today? What is one aligned step that she would take? How would she feel? And feel that. Lean into the best and highest version of yourself. And in time, sometimes overnight, as evidenced in my life, it will happen overnight. I can't speak for everybody. Obviously, I'm only sharing my personal experiences and what I have experienced and felt. I believe a quantum leap is possible. And I believe if you put in the interest, the curiosity, the research, the desire, that's all great. That's prep work. But again, it is the emotional belief that you can make a quantum leap. Have faith, connect to your spirit team, connect to God, connect to source energy. Remember that you are not someone, you are part of the one. We are all connected because we are all an extension of God, of source, of the beautiful life force energy that is here on earth. I am so curious to hear if you have experienced a quantum leap. Feel free to send me a DM and tell me your story. I would love to hear it. I will make a post on Instagram and feel free to also leave your story in the comments. That would be super interesting for me to learn about others and for you to share your story with someone else because, again, getting your voice out there may just make a difference in someone else's life. If you loved this episode, share it with someone you know who is ready for their leap. Screenshot and tag me on Instagram at Aligned and Abundant LLC. And don't forget to grab your free guide, Manifest Your Dream Life, linked in the show notes. Until next time, trust the timing, lead with your energy, and always remember you are one aligned decision away from your next level.